we're going to be swapping out the 255 Walbro that's sitting in here currently. Alright guys, so we have our 450 Walbro right here. It is rated for E85. We got 20 feet of Dash 8 fuel line. It is also rated for E85. Got a relay or an amp. That's what it is. And 30 amp inline fuse. A couple odds and ends, but real quick, first step, get that tore out of your car and go ahead and take it apart. So here's the 255 compared to the 450. And so pretty much what we're gonna do is get a Dremel, cut this area out so we kind of have a empty room here, and we're gonna mount the fuel pump right there, run a line obviously up and then a return, just completely bypass this entire factory, don't even know what you would call it, but just the way the fuel travels. So one thing real quick is the plug for the 450 is not the same as the OEM Tsx one, so you can't plug it in just up top like that, so we're gonna have to completely rewire it, and I'll get into that a little bit. So what I'm using is just a metal blade. I cut some relief cuts on here. I'm going to rip this out with pliers just so I can get most of this big stuff out of here, and then I'll get in there with a grinding wheel, probably a metal one, and start cleaning that all up. So here's kind of what we're looking for. It still needs to get cleaned up a little bit. And I ended up just using my angle grinder with this bit right here, and I'm not sure what that's made out of, but it's not metal. I couldn't find that one, but it worked fine. What I do want to do is leave that little lip, and the reason for that is when you put your fuel pump in there, you've got something you can run a zip tie or a worm clamp on and tighten it. So we're gonna go ahead and finish cleaning all these burrs up and stuff. I actually went to blow it out, get all the dust off of it with compressed air, and I did end up shaving just a hair too much. Got into there, and that looks like a filter, OEM filter. This is what my fuel was cycling through, and right when I put air onto it, it blew out a bunch of gunk. I guess whatever the sock wasn't getting, all the fine particles maybe, I don't know, oil or whatever, but that's kind of nasty. So we're going to be bypassing all that and just going straight from the tank into the pump straight to the car, so don't have to worry about that gunk. So here's kind of what I got going right now. This isn't the final product. I'm just kind of getting my measurements and all of that. So here's what I was telling you guys about that little tab in the back. Right now it's getting held on by a zip tie, and right here as well. This little tab right here, I cut that off as well. And I got my feed running up top to that barb. It's actually a little snug right there. This is gonna have to get replaced. I'm just trying to get my measurements all figured out. The reason for that is when this thing sits in the tank, So I actually cut the third barb off. That was the other tab. 1 second. Okay, there we go. So it's not that big of a deal. That tab would have been right here, and it goes right to this third tab. Some zip ties once we're done around these two tabs, and it will hold. Where that hose is sitting, I am gonna grind all that down, get it nice and smooth, so when I do put another piece of hose in there, because I kind of bent this one up, just fiddling around with it. And anyways, as you guys know, our sending units collapse when you put them into the tank. So I measured off the bottom of the tank to the top of the rim, and I got my measurements, about 9.5 inches, to the bottom of this rubber, and I gave it, you know, 1/8 of an inch of play, so it's not completely touching the floor. Well, it will be touching the floor, but it'll have room to where I can collapse it just a bit, because this is kind of, it's flexible hose, but not too flexible. What I did notice using rubber hose, even if you get the hose that's submersible, if you just slap on your hose with this thing extended all the way out and you go and stick it in the tank, well, you're going to fold it in half and you're going to pinch your hose shut. So I'd rather do it like this, to where it's already compressed. We are going to use the OEM bung for our return. I believe this is a 3/8, so we'll have to buy a 3/8 female EFI fitting to a -6, and this is going to get plugged back in. As for this fitting right here off of the 450, here's the harness from the 255. Well, this would be the OEM harness. Anyways, you can pull that out. I don't really need to, but I'm going to. Anywho, that's neither here nor there. I don't have to pull it out. Anyways, so I took this plug completely apart. It's actually fairly easy. Just get in there real careful with a razor blade, pull the tabs up, and same thing with these, pulling these pins out. There's a little tab right inside there. You just pry it up and pull these out. And the reason for that is because I'm going to disconnect this plug as well. I'm going to cut that off. And I actually might have, you can buy these pins. I don't know the specific size of them. That's why I took it apart. But I actually might have some. But the plan is, get those wires cut. They're just a perfect length. And we're going to splice them back into the OEM plug and plug it back in to where we don't have to drill a hole through the sending unit. I can just have my ground and power coming out with the original plug, and then from there on the harness, I'm going to probably snip those and run those to my relay. So a little more on that later, but this is kind of what I'm working with right now. And I guess it's pretty straightforward for doing a fuel setup, but there isn't really any exact write-up on what to do. But it's pretty simple. You know, you have a power and a negative for your pump. You just need to get your pump to sit on the bottom as best as it can, where it can pick up the fuel, even though when your tank is at 1/4. And yeah, send it up top and then run a return. I'm going to run a hose off of that into that little void down there, So when it comes to this plug, you can just cut it off. I chose to not, just because it's already pushed in there ways, and the wires are, I would say, right on the line of being, you know, the perfect length. So there's just these little rubber deals that sit on the inside there. I used a small nail, pried them out. This clip, it pops right off. I did actually crack it. I grabbed it the wrong way the first time, but it doesn't really matter because you're not going to be using this, at least I'm not. And once you get inside of there, if you take a nail, and you just shove it. Well, screw that, that's blurry. Anyways, if you look at that, there's a little tab right there. You just got to push that tab in, kind of collapse it, because it's biting into the plastic, preventing you from pulling it out. So if you just stick your nail in there and pry it down on that, this will slide right out. So that's what I was working on right there. So once we got this off, we can go ahead and peel these pins off and put the other pins on and get that OEM plug put on here. And you do need to know which one is positive and negative. I marked it. This one's the black. I guess this would be the right side, is the black side. Left side is it'd be yellow with a green line running through it. So you gotta look how and see how this plug goes in. And that's not how it goes in. It goes in like this. So we want our red to be on this side and the black on that side. So basically we're going to put the pins on these wires and put it back together. So here we go. I got the pins on, got a little bit of solder on them, ensure that they hold, and now we can place them back into here. So we got the plug all wired back in. As you can see, there's this little safety tab. You just gently pull it out right there. There's a couple tabs, and that locks the pins in place and kind of protects them, puts a layer between them. And you can get that plugged back in. Plug back in, and obviously we need to do the return line. You could leave it like this, but I'm going to bring it back down, and pretty much that's it for the sending unit. Obviously we're not going to leave the zip ties inside that are holding the pump. I'm going to use more gear clamps, but this is pretty much what we got going on. Next video I'll do the wiring for the pump on the outside, and we'll be installing the inline fuse and then the relay. Alright guys, if you guys found this video helpful, go ahead and drop that like. If you're not following, go ahead and drop a follow, and we'll get going on the relay and the fuse and running the dash 8 to the firewall in next video. Catch you guys later.
No. My phone died. Son of a bitch.
You said no commentary. Oh, you hit the dual now? That sounds badass.